So this is going to be a chocolate orange cake. Hello, it's really simple to make. The ingredients are flour, eggs, butter, and then it's a chocolate marmalade cake, so chocolate and marmalade. Couldn't be simpler. It's a one pot method, so I'm going to melt the butter in here, I'm going to melt the chocolate in here, I'm going to beat the eggs in and the marmalade, and then I'm going to add the flour and pour them out into these 2 tins and have either a sandwich or just 2 cakes to give away. What's lovely about this chocolate orange cake is you melt the butter and the chocolate in the pan and then mix in the marmalade and the eggs, and it's so easy. It's so easy. So what I'm going to do, this is 250 grams of butter, and I'm only going to use half of this. The recipe calls for 125 grams of butter. Just get the pan a little bit hot. You've got to be a bit careful because you actually don't want to burn it. So I'm just going to do a rough measure of half of that chunk. I'm going to cut it and I'm going to cube it. I'm going to do it over the pan just so that it'll melt a little bit more easily and quickly, and it's quite a sharp knife, so do be careful, kiddywinks. Just roughly chop it so that it'll melt a little easier. You can see that's already started to melt in the pan. So the bottom of the pan's got hot. I'm going to turn that right down. Fold the rest of the butter away for another day. The butter is beautifully melted there. I made the pan hot before I put it in, and then I turned the heat down. This is finest chocolate from my corner shop. It's a 50p bar of dark chocolate, and what you want to look for is the cocoa solids content on the back, and it's 50%. 50% for 50p. So that is very good economy there. And what you do is, here's what I've prepared already, is you break it up into chunks, and then I'm going to add it to the butter and just let it in its own time. See, it's already starting, it's already starting to melt. Yeah, that's just going to be, I don't need to rush it. I can put the heat on again a little bit, but it'll just go fine. It'll just be fine.
Lovely.
Yeah. So this chocolate and butter has beautifully melted. Look at that. And to that I'm going to add the 300 grams of the thick marmalade. And like I said, I'm just going to guesstimate this. It's a 450 gram jar. So I want about 4/5 really of this gooey, sugary, sweet, orangey. I chose thick cut because I do like the lumps. I do like a bit of something to get my teeth into, you know what I mean? So yeah, let's see how much is left there. Oh, God, listen to that. Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. Okay, I reckon that's enough. So that's going to mix in with all that lovely melted chocolate and butter. And like I say, I'm not adding any sugar to this, honestly. 100 grams of dark chocolate, 50% solid dark chocolate, and a jar of the cheapest, finest marmalade from a well-known brand that doesn't worry about its packaging and often has sleeping bags and Diablos on the central aisle. I think you know where I'm talking about. Okay, so that's lovely. There is lumps in it because that's the chunky marmalade. It asks for 2 eggs in the recipe. Other people will say beat them before you put them in. Again, a little bit of a rebel here. I'm going to put them in the mixture. And with my, oh no, I dropped it. Oh. This whisk, this is the best whisk. See those little coils there? Oh, it's the only way to go. So what I've got here is I've got those eggs. I just dropped them in. It says beat them, so I'm beating them in situ. I'm beating them into themselves. You see? And then I'm beating it in to the mixture all the way. Nice big sloppy. Oh, God. So that is just butter, eggs, chocolate and marmalade. I've weighed out the flour and I've mixed it with the baking powder. I only ever buy plain flour, and I add a rising agent to it. This is baking powder, and what you do is you use about 1 teaspoon of this with 100 grams of that. So in this recipe I use 1.5 teaspoons to 150 grams of flour. But what you can also do, so I'm just going to sieve some in and then mix this in. You want to fold it. I know that sounds like you fold clothes, but rather than beat it or whisk it, you're sort of inviting the flour. Oh, I'm sounding like one of them women on the telly. Inviting the flour to blend with the chocolate and butter, allowing those little bits to bond onto the orange of the marmalade, and really should stop talking like that and add some more flour. So this is the correct way to add flour. You tap the sieve on the side of your palm, whilst reciting a little ditty. Little ditty. Oh, sorry, I don't know that one. Oh. Sorry, I just suddenly thought this was a metaphor for drugs, because it's like the white's the cocaine and the brown's the shit. I didn't say that. You can edit it out. It's okay.
We'll cut this.
Shh. This is a nice little trick. These are the baking tins I'm going to use. So you need to prep them. And how you do that is a little bit of oil inside. And I've just got a bit of tissue, and I'm just going to rub that. It's clean tissue, by the way, because that's important. And I did wash my hands. So yeah, a little bit like this, and then I'm going to flour it. And that should stop anything from sticking, really. What shall we use? So yeah, I'm just going to pat it with your hand, get the flour moving around, particularly the edges, because that's where it gets stuck in the corners. If the top comes out, a little bit more in this one. So I'm going to try and pour equal amounts into both these, which isn't just about being fairs and sharing, it's actually about they'll cook at the same time then. Okay.
Busted.
The actual recipe, my Jella's recipe, calls for 350 grams of sugar, as well as a bar of chocolate and the marmalade.
Jesus Christ.
You're filming?
Yeah.
So this is on a tray, so that it's easier to go in the oven, because they're hot ovens. So this has been put on, I know, this has been put on at gas mark 5, and that's going in the middle, comme ça, and that will want about, I'd check it after 25, 30 to 35 minutes on gas mark 5. I'll tell you what that is in centigrade. Okay. It's time. I set a timer when I put it in the oven. I reckoned about 30 minutes. I'm just going to look at it now. This is my special skewer. The test for a good cake is to put the skewer in, and if it comes out clean of sticky dough, then it is cooked. And that's cooked for me. So I'm going to turn off the oven and take those out. What do you think of that then, eh? They want to just cool down a little bit, and then with a cooling rack, so that has a grill, anything from the grill in your oven or whatever, and just so that you can tip the cakes out on it and they'll breathe a little bit and cool down. So my favourite method is whack it over, knock on the door and say hello freedom. That worked rather well, didn't it? I wonder if it'll do the same with this one. Here we go. Ha, cha-cha, cha-cha, cha-cha. Yes. Look. So these are our chocolate, orange, marmalade cakes.